Hey folks, Worst back here with another one. Before anything else, I just wanted to say that I've continued messing with my microphone settings, so hopefully things sound a little bit better than last time. Anyway, today's topic, we're going to be sort of doing the opposite of the most disturbing or dark pieces of Old School Runescape lore video that we did recently. We're going to be talking about the brighter side of things, wholesome or uplifting moments or turn of events that I was able to find information on. Entries in this video can be anything from a small and happy moment to a whole good-natured resolution. Things that are no longer in the game, for example a limited time event or a scrap piece of content, can potentially make the video, assuming they're good enough. Now look, some of these might start off sounding bad or unwholesome, but for the good moments to feel good, you need the bad moments to remind you of how good it could have been. So many of these entries might mention or start off with a bad occurrence, but trust me, we'll explain how these end up being a good thing by the end. These are in no particular order, and this is by no means a complete list. There are a lot of pieces of happy lore in the game, just like there's a lot of dark lore in the game. So if you guys like this one, we may do a part 2. And I'll just say now, while we're on the topic, we will be doing a part 2 of the disturbing lore bits because that one got a lot of love. So thanks for that, and without further ado, let's get right into the most wholesome moments. Number 10. Redeeming Olaf for his clan and his ancestors in Olaf's quest. Olaf Hradson is a Fremennik. You can find him to the northeast of Relica, near the Polar Hunter area. He's the central figure of the Olaf's quest, and in that quest description it tells us everything we need to know in terms of the help we're going to offer him. The description stating, "Poor Olaf Hradson, he had to live up to such expectations. His ancestors sailed all over the world, and now he has to go out and prove himself their equal. If only he could read a map. If only he could sail. If only he hadn't crashed. Can you help a depressed and soggy Fremennik regain his pride, and possibly the lost treasure of his grandfather?" Throughout the course of the quest, we do exactly that, helping him make some crude carvings for his family, which he refers to as tribal or something, to make them seem more impressive. You take these back to his wife and son, Ingrid and Wolf, both of which seem to enjoy the unimpressive chunks of wood. Returning to Olaf, who is freezing, damp, and hungry, we relight his fire for him and offer him a meal that isn't seaweed or biscuits that he's gotten used to eating here, which he happily accepts. Tasking the player with yet more assistance, he gives us his map. Using this map, we make our way into a cave of brine rats, and eventually make our way to finding the treasure that Olaf is after, located by the grave of his grandfather, Ulfric. Now, when trying to claim his treasure in Olaf's name, we're attacked by the undead remnants of Ulfric, so now needing to defeat Olaf's long-deceased grandfather, we do so and return to Olaf with his family heirlooms. Now, I know that might not all sound the most wholesome, but it's more about the meaning of the ending. In Olaf's eyes at least, and perhaps the eyes of the Fremennik people, Olaf has proven himself. And it's all thanks to the actions of our player. Number 9. Giving a skull back to a ghost and the restless ghost. Right in the heart of Lumbridge, you meet Father Eric in the Lumbridge Church. Though this holy man is dealing with some less than holy problems. A ghost is haunting the graveyard just outside his church. After securing a ghost speak amulet from a different priest living nearby, Father Ernie, you speak with the ghost directly, learning that he's not a scary ghost, he's a sad ghost, and that he can't continue his restful afterlife while his stolen skull is missing. We agree to help the ghost move on, and travel to the basement of the wizard's tower to help find his misplaced skull. Now, we end up finding the skull, and upon returning the skull to the ghost, he thanks us and is able to move on now. We watch a short cutscene of exactly that happening. Again, this has unwholesome moments, but the overall ending, with many new adventurers choosing to spend their time helping a restless ghost find peace, is undoubtedly wholesome. Number 8. Finding Bob the Cat and A Tale of Two Cats. Bob the Cat isn't just any cat. He's actually the reincarnation of Robert the Strong, a fabled hero within RuneScape history. But Unferth, Bob's pet human, doesn't know that. Unferth is just a lonely and disturbed man who lives in Berthorpe. His cat Bob has apparently gone missing, and Unferth would like us to help find him. During this quest, we take our cat speak amulet to Hild, also in Berthorpe, to enhance it further, now with the ability to locate Bob the cat, always pointing to his direction should you check it. Using our new and improved amulet, we hunt down Bob. Bob is, however, gone because he's hanging out with his girlfriend, also a human in a cat's body, Neat, helping Unferth out with a few things, chores around his house really, as well as giving him medicine, which is actually just a placebo vial of water to help his hypochondriac nature. We ultimately leave Unferth feeling much better than when we met him. Bob might not stick around full time, but at least Unferth knows that his friend Bob is happily traveling with Neat. Number 7. Saving Elena in Plague City. Plague City begins with a simple plea from Edmund, Elena's father. He wants you to help find her, and bring her home to her family. He explains that she'd gone into West Arty to help with the plague, and I say it like that because it's discovered later and later quests that the plague is an entirely made-up scare tactic used to control people. Anyway, Elena went there to help the citizens of West Arty, but she still hasn't come back, which is why Edmund has started to worry at the beginning of the quest. Gathering up supplies to make a trip there ourselves, Edmund helps us break into the walled-off city. And we eventually find Elena there, imprisoned, but not because she's infected, but because she just knows too much, it seems. You help her escape through the events of the quest, returning her to her very thankful family. This moment of reunion is quietly powerful. There are no grand celebrations, just a relieved family reuniting after being separated. To add on to the wholesomeness aspect of this, Elena is a very important figure in the follow-up quests, helping the player several times over to help the people of West Arty, and also helping to reveal the plague as a lie. Number 6. Helping the Wise Old Man in Swansong. I understand that while the Wise Old Man is a beloved character, he's not necessarily totally a good guy, with his past showing some morally gray decisions to say the least. That all being said, helping someone who is widely considered an in-universe hero is not a bad thing, and I'd arguably say wholesome. Now, the title of the quest, Swan Song, is really on the nose here, because a swan song is a metaphorical phrase, meaning a final gesture, effort, or performance given just before the death or retirement, which again is a very fitting name for the quest. The Wise Old Man has lived a pretty long and fulfilling life. He's probably seen more adventure than our player has, given his fame and age. And because of his part in robbing Draenor Village Bank, we can see that while he is a beloved character by the community, he is lore-wise, well, I wouldn't call him necessarily lawful good, but his heart does ultimately seem to be in the right place. Taking on the quest, an NPC named Herman Karanos specifically requests the help of the Wise Old Man, who he describes as one of the greatest adventurers of all time. Now, we approach the Wise Old Man with this invitation, who considers whether he's still got it in him to do one more quest or not, eventually agreeing to take it on. You both travel to the Piscatoris fishing colony where the quest primarily takes place. The call to the Wise Old Man being because of a steady invasion of sea trolls in the area. You get there, help to set up some rudimentary defenses, do a less than wholesome bit of necromancy to build up a defending army, and then end up fighting waves of sea trolls along with the Wise Old Man. He tosses around some really potent spells, showing just how formidable this old man truly is. However, once he's nearly single-handedly defeated the sea trolls and their general, he's attacked by the Sea Troll Queen herself, who hits him for an absolutely devastating 254 damage in one hit. This knocks him out of the battle, leaving the Queen up to you to fight alone. Once the Queen is defeated, the Wise Old Man tells the player that watching them fight was truly magnificent. He commends you for your efforts and admits that although ultimately successful in your mission, it is in fact time for him to hang it up and retire, stating that this quest was his swan song, and essentially passing the torch onto us, the player, as the new champion of Gielinor, ready to answer any threats that might come. Now I will move on after this thought, but since Kraken came out, I really can't help but chuckle at how the Sea Troll Queen looks literally nothing like the sea trolls, other than the sickly green skin and the spiky teeth in their mouths. Kraken looks extra lazy now, being that it's just a recolor of a quest boss, but I mean, it is what it is. They didn't have a lot of art resources at the time, and honestly, it looks more like a Kraken than a Sea Troll Queen anyway. But I still found it a bit funny. Maybe one day the Sea Troll Queen will look more trolly. Not that I think they'll ever change her, it's a very old and iconic quest at this point. Number 5. Freeing important diplomats and heroes from the Kalinomancer and Recipe for Disaster. Recipe for Disaster, another iconic RuneScape quest. It's often remembered as a mega quest of sorts, a big quest with a bunch of subquests. But if you take all the pieces as is and put them together, you get one of the most lore-packed and character-rich quests in the entire game. You're not just collecting ingredients that you've never heard of for some snooty important diners, you're also saving some of the most important political figures and heroes in Gielinor. The quest begins simple, as a banquet for the all-important guests I'd mentioned already, but quickly runs awry after the Kalinomancer, an evil food-themed wizard, and also the old ex-cook of Lumbridge Castle itself, who is actually related to the current cook, shows up to ruin the party. A spell suspends all the guests in time, only able to be freed by eating their favorite meals supplied by us, the player of course. Once you've made your way around the entire map, gathering materials to make some truly weird dishes for the variety of guests, you can take on the Kalinomancer himself, putting an end to his evil deeds, at least for now. Upon freeing the guests, most are thankful to be freed, and our actions in this quest, freeing the myriad of high-profile NPCs, is undoubtedly a good deed on our part. Number 4. Granting peace to Port Phasmatis residents and Ghost Ahoy. Ghost Ahoy takes place in the gloomy, misty town of Port Phasmatis, a port town on the eastern coast of Mauritania. Long, long ago, before our hero's journey began, when the vampires of Mauritania came demanding blood tithes from the port for Lord Draken, a priest, or so he claimed, named Necrovarus, tricked the townsfolk into building the Ectofuntus, an altar that he claimed would create a magical barrier that would keep the vampires out. And it did, but it also killed everyone in the town, including Necrovarus himself. The whole lot of them now stuck as ghosts with unfinished business. Stuck eternally with Necrovarus, him sapping their power to strengthen himself, and not allowing any of them to pass on to the afterlife to gain peace. Now you might be asking yourself, how the heck is this wholesome? This sounds terrible. And I mean, you're kinda right, but that's just where we come in. Our player character agrees to help the townsfolk escape Necrovarus' clutches. There's no promise of treasure, you're not doing it for gold or glory, you're doing it because someone has to. What follows is partly a quest, partly a heist, and partly a revolution. You sneak into areas you're not meant to be, wearing a ghostly disguise, and with the assistance of the local crone, enchant your ghost speak amulet with the ability to command ghosts. A mechanic that I don't believe ever comes up again, but that's a topic for an abandoned ideas video, I suppose. Anyway, you use your new amulet to demand Necrovarus free all the ghosts of Port Phasmatis, which he reluctantly does. The people of Port Phasmatis are now free. Although the vast majority decide to hang around anyway, they could now pass on if they wanted, thanks to you. If you speak to Necrovarus after the quest, he threatens you and is none too kind, showing you all but completely foiled his evil plans. Number 3. Uniting the Fremennik and Moon Clan people after a feud in lunar diplomacy. If you just look at the surface, you probably only think of lunar diplomacy as a quest that unlocks the lunar spellbook for you. And I mean, you're right, but if you dig into the actual story behind it, it's a story about healing a rift between two tribes of a fractured family. That being the Fremennik of Relica and the Moon Clan of Lunar Isle. They were once one people, a group of Viking-like settlers who traveled the lands, though part of the settlers valued strength and battle prowess and tradition, while the other group valued wisdom and intellect over brute force. When these ideals clashed, the disagreement didn't end in debate or even just battle. It ended in a messy breakup of sorts, only after coming to conflict. The Moon Clan were expelled from the rest of the Fremennik clans. Sailing across the waters, the Moon Clan came across Lunar Island, settling there. The leader of the Moon Clan, the Oniromancer, sees a chance for peace between the two groups again, seeking the player's help in connecting the tribes. Throughout the quest, you are tasked with various trials to determine your worthiness and ability to become a member of the Moon Clan, and to use their lunar magics. By completing the quest, you both symbolically and literally unite the Moon Clan and the Fermentic again. Accepted into both societies equally, you offer the hope of a new generation of Fermentic tribe, one that doesn't carry old grudges, one that sees the value of both strength and wisdom, and in doing so you show both sides that they can recognize each other's ideals and continue as a stronger, shared peoples in the future. Number 2. Restoring Nature and Curing the Fairy Queen in Fairy Tale Part 2, Cure a Queen. The story of Fairy Tale Part 2 picks up pretty immediately after the events of Part 1, wherein the Fairy Queen had fallen ill and the Fairy Godfather has assumed control of her throne in the meantime. And as a result, plants on Gielinor and on Xanaris itself start to wilt away. Not that this is shown mechanically at all, your farming skill still works as intended, and visually nothing is out of place. But yeah, lore-wise, we're supposed to be looking at the Dust Bowl here, apparently. Anyway, you pick up after the events of Part 1 by returning to Martin the Master Farmer in Draenor, just like you did to start Part 1. He still talks like a man who's trying not to panic about his livelihood, and things haven't seemed to improve much. The crops are still failing, the soil is not cooperating. We're meant to believe that farming is on the verge of total ecological collapse. You are sent back to Xanaris to check on the Queen again. But once you get there, something is definitely off. The Fairy Godfather seems to have gotten comfortable sitting in the Fairy Queen's throne. He does not want to give it up. He's got guards all over. Fairies from the first quest, namely Fairy Nuff, are missing. And what at first seems like a peaceful temporary accommodation is feeling more like a hostile fairy mafia takeover. And what at first seemed like a peaceful temporary accommodation is starting to feel more like a hostile fairy mafia takeover. Thankfully, you are soon connected with the Resistance, Fairy Nuff and Fairy Very Wise, both watching over the Queen in a deep hiding spot. They believe the Queen was deliberately sickened, and that her illness isn't natural at all. From here, the quest takes on a bit of an intrigue sort of turn of events, like a sort of magical detective story, I guess. You eventually piece together a cure of sorts for the Queen, which awakens her. She speaks of storming into Xanaris and taking a throne back from the Fairy Godfather, but is quickly convinced of the futility of that plan, her supporters outmatched by the Godfather's minions. This might not seem super wholesome, but the fact is, at the beginning of the quest, the Queen was bedridden with a mysterious illness, an illness that you, the player, helps cure. This is certainly not the end of the story, but instead an important and helpful stepping stone towards the fairies' fight for freedom from the Godfather. Now this questline is unfinished, with Fairy Tale Part 2 being called the... Now this questline is unfinished, at least in Old School Runescape, with Fairy Tale Part 2 being called part of a trilogy, yet it came out in 2006 and we've yet to see Part 3. Again, in Old School at least. I know RuneScape 3 has the sequel, but until we get it in Old School, this is unresolved. That all being said, I would still put this on the list because of all the factors I've already stated, where at the beginning of the quest things were much more worse off than when we got involved. Finally, number 1, Restoring the Elven Lands and Song of the Elves. I don't know about you, but to me, Song of the Elves feels more like a world event than a quest. Not just because it was a huge moment for the community when it came out, but because it finally gave the people of Tyrannwen the peace they've been robbed of for generations. The quest picks up after Morning's End Part 2, with many of the darkest parts of Prifddinas and Elven lore having been revealed by now. The Iorwerth betrayal, the attempted revival of the Dark Lord, the Elven Civil War, and more. We join Erenwen, like many of the other elf quests. Now the events of the quest are long and a lot to go over, so we'll just hit some points here. During the quest, we help to expose King Lathis for the twisted and evil person that he is, stop the full resurrection of the Dark Lord, and finally reunite the once fractured elf clans. Your actions help to open up the gates of Prifddinas to the rest of the world. The elves inside have had their rift healed, and you're not just celebrated as a simple hero, you're held up as someone who helped put an end to countless years of conflict and division amongst the elves. Now again, this isn't fully wholesome exactly due to the conflict of the quest, but nothing in this game truly is, so we've got to look at the silver linings on some of these things like we have this whole video. And that's it, folks. Hopefully you guys liked this one. These are just some of the uplifting or wholesome moments in the game. Like the unsettling moments, there are a ton, so let me know if you want a part 2 and we may do that. Also, a quick note before we end the video. Just wanted to say thank you so much for the support, everyone. I literally 2 videos ago said thanks for 50 subscribers, and since then we ballooned up to 200 now. So thanks again for that. It's crazy to me to see the overwhelmingly positive reception, and it truly means a lot. So we will be making more. Those of you not new here might know that I have a full-time job, so I don't have a schedule by any means, but I try to get them out as quick as I can, so stick around for more. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This has been Worst. I'll see you in the next one.